Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vesna Belagaska. I'm director at Iris Connect, and I have the pleasure of hosting this webinar today together with our partners Get Further. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm also joined by Tony Harper, Senior Maths and Curriculum Manager at Get Further. I expect that there will be a few people joining in the next few minutes, but I am going to start now with some practical information and introductions. First of all, just to let everyone know that this session is being recorded to make it available on demand later. And if anybody has any issues with sharing personal data, but would still like to ask questions at some point during the session, then feel free to email us. I'll share the email addresses later on in order to allow you to do so. So before handing over to Tony, I will allow me to do a little bit of an introduction to Iris Connect for those who are less familiar with it. Iris Connect was conceived as a startup at University of Sussex back in 2008. Inspired by research into how teacher professional learning can be enhanced through technology and the theory of change. Since those early days of pioneering video-based teacher professional learning for reflection, analysis, and refinement of teaching practice, technology has evolved significantly. And at Iris Connect, we continue to leverage it to facilitate the learning experiences that make effective professional development sustainable and scalable and help teachers to develop adaptive expertise. That includes video-based reflection, instructional coaching, and peer collaboration, adaptive pathways, which are customizable frameworks that guide teachers step by step through a specific area of professional development and track progress, and more recently, AI-enhanced insights that highlight moments worth revisiting, making feedback more focused and efficient for real impact on the teaching practice and learner outcomes, which is the area that Tony is going to be focusing on later in the session. Over the last almost 17 years now, we've had the privilege of working in various international partnerships and projects and collaborating with educators in more than 50 countries across the world. And that experience has given us a valuable insight into the realities of teacher professional learning, which, coupled with the research evidence of what makes it effective, is continually informing our approach. We are delighted to be working with Get Further for more than a year now, facilitating the incredible work that they are doing in their mission to support students from disadvantaged backgrounds in further education to secure gateway English and maths qualifications that unlock opportunities for their future. So I am delighted to introduce Tony Harper, Senior Maths Curriculum Manager, who will explore how to make feedback more supportive, collaborative, and developmental based on their experience and the latest educational research. So, Tony, welcome, and please feel free to share your screen. We will have a question and answer sessions towards the end, but feel free to post them in the chat and we'll make sure that they're addressed towards the end.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Vesna. Yes, so as mentioned then, so I will be taking the next part of the session, which is all about observations being reimagined. And we're going to be sharing the work that we've been doing. So firstly, just to add to my introduction from Vesna there, I am the Senior Maths Curriculum Manager at Get Further, and I'll share more about what that looks like for us in a moment. But just to share context of how I got to be at Get Further, so I have 10 years of in-classroom experience where I took on lots of different responsibilities during that time. So part of that being a assistant head of year, then teaching abroad in the Dominican Republic for a little bit of time as well, before becoming a head of department where I focused on that curriculum design and designing the resources along with that. I've now been at Get Further for 3 years. My role entails lots of different things, but part of my role is focusing on designing the resources that our tutors use in their sessions for our various programs that we do deliver here at Get Further, but also supporting the training and quality of our tutors, which starts off with 2 days of intensive training that they do when they start and join their journey at Get Further, as well as lots of upskilling opportunities throughout the year, and our observation process, which we're going to deep dive into this afternoon. To understand a little bit more about what that looks like, I just wanted to share what Get Further is. So Get Further is a charity that supports students unlocking those key qualifications in English and maths. And that looks like lots of different things at Get Further, but my role involves supporting our tuition programmes, which are supporting students who are resitting GCSE maths and English, but also for adult learners who are completing their functional skills qualification. And the work that we do is with that support to that every young person and adult is able to achieve those gateway qualifications to unlock and thrive in education, work and life. So as part of my role over the last 3 years, I've done a few different things. I've supported around 5,000 students on our various small group tuition programmes. We have worked and supported the development of, if it's going to work, of around 400 tutors, and that's been across 90 different campuses. So that gives a context of the work that we do and how we have got to where we are. So then, as we mentioned then, today is all about focusing on observations and the work that Iris do to support us with that process. So I'm going to kick off with a reflection on what an observation actually is. So I just want you to take a moment to reflect on what would you say the purpose of an observation is? And what do you think makes a good observation? And what I'd like you to do is use either your phone device or if you've got a camera device to scan the QR code, or you can go to slido.com, type in the number, and I want you to share those reflections. So in your opinion, and it's all anonymous, so don't worry, your names won't appear, but in your opinion, what do you think the purpose of an observation is? And what would you say makes a good observation? So as I said, if you just scan the QR code with your camera, it will take you to the sliders that we'll be using for today. Or if it's easier, you can just pop to the website and you can type your reflections in. And you can submit more than one thing. So if you'd like to start by just reflecting on what you think an observation is to begin with, and then reflecting on what to you makes a good observation. Brilliant. Thank you so much. I can see lots of you are joined, so that means it's working. Just give you a final 30 seconds if you need to just take a moment to finish off your reflections. Fantastic. Brilliant. Yes. So yeah, lots of really lovely reflections there. We can see that the key themes coming through are focusing on that teaching practice and what that looks like, delivering that high quality teaching, which is meant, and lots of things around being supportive, showing collaboration, being a critical friend. So yeah, lots of different positive ideas there. So in order to understand what we're going to be doing on today, I now want you to reflect on your own personal experience of observations in your whole career so far. So that Slido should have just ticked over. If you have clicked off it, you can scan it again. But you're going to answer one question, which is, have you ever given or being given a grade or rating as part of a judgment of teaching. So you should hopefully just be on the same page. If not, you can scan the QR code again and you're just going to enter yes, no, or don't remember. You can see we've got 14 people have entered. Okay, let's take a look then. So, wow, don't think we've ever had 100% of people agree. So yes, we've got 100% of us. So all of us in here are familiar with either being given or giving out a rating or a grade as part of a judgment. And then what you should now reflect on, in general, how do observations make you feel? And you can submit as many different words as you want. And then again, there might be multiple different feelings and emotions that you have when we talk about that phrase observations. Okay, let's take a look. Right then, so we're sitting around the middle. So we've got nobody, thankfully, feeling in utter despair and anxiousness about them. We have got the odd few of us feeling nice, relaxed and supporters. Most of us feeling about in the middle, in between, feeling that pressure, but also feeling supported at the same time. Okay, so now thinking about this academic year. So if you've been observed whilst teaching this academic year, what has helped you improve? Brilliant. Okay, then. So we've got, yes, suggesting and going watching other people. So reflecting together, having some clear targets, working with one another. So lots of collaboration, which is really lovely to see. So seeing that we're not less focused on those grades and we're more focused on that collaboration. And that's where we've got to. So I do want to just touch on what observations felt and looked like in the past. So as all of us, so all 100% of us have received those grades in the past, we'll be very familiar with that one person coming along to watch that one lesson, having to provide a seating plan, having to provide that lesson plan ahead of that one moment. Then that person comes in and they watch that 20 minutes of your lesson. And then at the end of it, we're then giving those grades, which we are familiar with. And the whole purpose of that was that teachers had to demonstrate they were meeting those standards, which was all linked to those high stakes appraisals. And then we then were deemed as being outstanding if the students in our lessons made progress within 20 minutes. But fortunately, we're in a slightly different position now and things have changed. So what we're looking for now is a collaboration and a process of working with either a team of individuals or it might be with a couple of different people. Then as part of that process, people drop in. It's not a one-off observation or a one-off dropping. It is people coming in on a regular basis. They might see 5 minutes one day, they might see 15 minutes on another day. Sometimes they might be able to afford you that time to see a longer snapshot of your session. And then after those drop-ins, we've then got that reflective conversation afterwards, which looking from what you guys have put in this morning, this afternoon, that's hopefully where we're all at. And the purpose of that now is all about improving. So we're not trying to prove that we've met those standards. We're trying to have that agency to choose what direction we want to move in, and we're improving throughout our time. And a good observation is therefore where that teacher and that observer are working as equal partners, showing that professional curiosity towards developing the quality of teaching. So with that in mind, I then want you to now reflect on what currently supports you within your observation process or your setting. So if you had the ability to change, add, or remove something, what would you like to do? So as before, pop your thoughts in. So what currently works and is supporting with your observation process? Is there anything that you would like to change, add, remove, or improve? And do be clear when you're popping those in which things are working and what you would like to develop within your settings. Brilliant. So you've got a mixture of things there. So reflecting on not having that judgment anymore, working in conversation, and to the point of about being equal observers. What I mean by that is we're showing that equal professional curiosity. So it's not a case of someone having less or more experience. We're having that first initial conversation of, right, if you can do, what is it that you would like to develop on, and then that person is able to give that support and guidance everywhere. But we're equal partners in the fact that we're approaching the process as a collaborative process. So we're not going in with one person coming in and giving a grade, but instead we've both got that shared goal of we want to develop learning and teaching. We want to develop the practice so that students have those better outcomes. And we're both showing that equal curiosity towards development. So what I mean by that equal partnership is we're going in that process together as a team. And it's not a case of one person coming in and saying, this is what needs to be done immediately. It's a conversation of this is what's not quite going correct. And we want to do these things. So do X, Y, and Z to then try and improve. Yeah, thank you. So equal curiosity, not equal partners. Brilliant. So what I wanted to share then is our feedback and reflection cycle that we use at Get Further, which embeds Iris Connect. And so we don't call it an observation process. We use it as a feedback and reflection cycle, just as you mentioned on that part there. It's about closing that loop. And that's why we refer to it as a cycle, because it's that case of an episode happens, we then reflect and feedback on it. We then have another episode happen. We reflect and feedback on it. And we keep that process as a continuous development journey. And so at Get Further, what it looks like is that focus on development. Our goal there is for every tutor that comes and joins us at Get Further, that over their time with us, they develop along the journey. And that starts from the very first thing that they do with us is having that initial training at the start. They then have access to lots of development opportunities throughout the year. And our feedback and reflection cycle is built with that development process in mind. We then build it around a culture. So it's not the case of one person just working with that one tutor at one time. We have a whole team that support our tutors. We have our program coordinators who will be on site, dropping in as a regular process, giving those regular bits of feedback that are just dropping in for 5 or 10 minutes at a time on a regular basis. We also have our lead tutors who are on site even more regularly than our program coordinators. And again, they're working together, they're challenging by asking questions, they're dropping in. So that culture is we go in and we see sessions all the time. And the focus is to deliver high quality sessions with the frame of student outcomes being at the forefront of everything. So our tutors are arriving at the start, developing over time, with the idea that their high quality tuition will then improve our student outcomes. And when we deliver our feedback and reflection cycle, it has two key strands. The first key strand focuses on building relationships. So what are the tutors doing to develop those relationships over their time? How are they creating that safe space? How are they creating that safe environment? How are they creating that circumstance so that learning can take place? Our second aspect is then around the science of learning. And that's where we work with our tutors to focus on all those parts that come in that development. So we look at, are they embedding the science of learning strategies that they're taught in their initial tutor training? Are they using modelling effectively? Are they using questioning strategies to try and develop our students? So we have those conversations at the start, but it then feeds into our observation, or in our situation, the feedback and reflection cycle. And as part of that process, our tutors are guided through a feedback loop. And with that, action steps are agreed. And it was lovely to see that some of the things that you agree work in your settings are those agreed action steps. And we specifically use the words by or so that. So our tutors understand specifically what the action is that they have to do and why it is that they have to do it. So here's a couple of examples. So, for example, we could have ensuring students are paying attention and ready to learn by waiting for complete silence before starting the exposition. Or an example of using so that is using a pen to point to each part of the equation whilst modelling so that students are focusing attention at the right part at the right time. So that process is then built into our training so that our tutors know exactly what to expect as part of that feedback conversation. So I want to talk you through our journey of how we have come to use Iris Connect and use videos to support the development of our feedback and reflection cycle. With that in mind, I'd like you to take a moment to reflect on how does the idea of being filmed whilst doing your job, so whatever position or whatever role you're in right now, how would the idea be if somebody filmed you doing that and then watching yourself doing your job and sharing that footage with a colleague? So as before, your slider should have flicked over on your device and feel free to scan it again. So how does the idea of being filmed whilst doing your job make you feel? And how does it feel to know that you're then going to have to share and watch that reflection with a colleague? Brilliant. Right, it looks like we've got lots of different experiences, which is fantastic. So for some of us, that is standard procedure and feeling like all lessons should be filmed. And we've got some people feeling terrified because maybe it's not something we've done before. Lots of our tutors come to us, and I like the use of the word icky. I think that's a really great phrase that would summarise how some of our tutors come to our sessions with. So that awkwardness, feeling that uncomfortable with. However, they do also come in feeling that curiosity and feeling like, okay, I know I'm going to benefit from it, but those first few times do start off a little bit awkward. So what we know then about the limits of what we used to do at Get Further, which is those in-person visits that we used to do. So the first thing I wanted to share with you is the fact that our memories are dim. And what that means is the moment something's happened, we start forgetting immediately. So even word for word what we said, as soon as it's been said, we start forgetting exactly. If you try to think back to the start of today's session, if you can remember some of the key parts that Vesna was talking to us about, already we've started to forget some of those things. Equally, if I asked you to maybe talk about my experiences of either being a teacher or some of the responsibilities I have, immediately our brains start forgetting. The next thing is that we have different perspectives. And when we have those different perspectives, we therefore have differing opinions. We also know that there will always be blind spots. So even in our sessions where our small group tuition is only one tutor to 3 students, we know that a tutor still cannot see exactly what's going with every individual at a time, because the moment they start supporting student A with a little piece of work over here, that tutor can then no longer see exactly what student C is doing. And that's the same in that classroom setting. We can be over supporting little Roger doing something over here, and then on the far side of the room, another student is doing something entirely different to what we were expecting them to be doing. And lastly, visits are time consuming. And for us, this was quite a big one at Get Further. Our tuition programs run across the entire country, and therefore trying to coordinate our program coordinators who are responsible for multiple colleges, trying to get them to go to a site at the exact time for the right place, trying to see that session happening was really time consuming. And that's why we then thought about embarking on our journey of using video. And that's because we don't have to rely on our memories. We don't have to think about the language that we use and try to remember exactly what was said. We don't have to remember exactly how a student responded to it. We can see it all as it happened. And the best thing about it is you can play, pause, rewind, and do that as many times as you want. And what's been amazing on our journey is we've realised that you can watch a recording multiple times with that different lens. So the first time you might focus on the body language you were using. The second time you might focus on the modelling aspect that you were using, and then the next time you can watch it and then go, oh, actually it's the questioning that I want to focus on. And each time you can re-watch it with a different lens, and therefore you can get a lot more from trying to rely on your memory and exactly what happened. So as it gets further, the biggest thing is the time commitments for it. You don't have to coordinate being in the same place at the same time as somebody else. And we often know within observations, the time setting does not allow that. When I was in the classroom, I remember wanting to go and see some of the amazing teachers around the school, but you're unable to do that. You were teaching at that time, you maybe had a couple of free periods during that week, and they didn't coordinate with those other teachers. So one of the best things about this is that doesn't matter. Other teachers, if you've got amazing teachers doing amazing things, you might have a teacher who is fantastic at modelling. They can therefore record that aspect of their lesson and then they can share it. And that's what we do at Get Further. So we've been able to snip up some of our recordings that we were able to use from last year. We've put those into our training so that others can see that. And we're going to use this year to collect lots more footage so that we can share that good practice with everybody. And so I wanted to talk through our experience of using video at Get Further. So up until last year, we didn't use video at all. And so it relied on our team going out to those colleges, watching it live, and then trying to have those conversations afterwards. Last year, we were fortunate enough to be able to pilot a handful of our lead tutors using Iris Connect. And the way that that worked is that each of our lead tutors had a user license. And then they recorded the footage either on a phone or some of them it was on a tablet, so on a different device. And then it just directly uploads to the cloud. So our lead tutors don't have to worry about it being stored. It just gets uploaded straight away. Then at this point here with our lead tutors, they could choose what to record. So if there was one particular aspect of delivery or if there's one particular type of session that they wanted to focus on, they could just choose it. It was entirely up to them. It was, decide what you would like support with, you record it, and then they chose the focus for that feedback. And then they could then share that footage with different colleagues. And that worked really well with us because for some of us, they wanted feedback within English, so they would then share that with the English curriculum manager, or it might be they wanted a different perspective on questioning, so then they came to myself. Then the colleague can then watch that footage and then they can leave time-stamped comments. So that person who was watching the footage just went through, as they saw things, made those comments so that the tutor could then respond to those. Then the reviewer and the tutor could watch that footage together in the moment. And then those conversations were much more meaningful because they could go, right, you did this part here, this was amazing. And then go, oh, at here, is there anything else you could have done? And you can see it live in that moment because you can say this part here, this is what happened. And what was great is they were really easy to record. All of our lead tutors from last year found that no problem whatsoever. And they could do it as infrequently or as frequently as desired. So we wanted to share with you a video clip of one of our lead tutors from last year. So I'll let you watch it first and then I'll add the context around this.
So we'll be working on those today, and hopefully you'll feel you've made a bit of progress with that by the end of the session. Okay, let's go to the next page. I'm going to do a quick vocabulary unlock. So this is where we're going to look at the root part of a word to give us some clues about what sort of words might have this root in them. And the root we're looking at is ob, which is to do with being against or towards something. It can also mean thoroughly. Okay, so we've got some examples here. I'm going to read them and then if you can repeat them back to me. Obstruct, obscure, obligation, object, which could also be object, yeah. Obstinate. Okay. So we're going to read through these sentences. We'll take it in turns to read these sentences to see these words in action. So could you read number 1 for me, please?
The police used their van to obstruct the criminals as they tried to escape.
Thank you. The defender tried to obscure the attacker's view of the goal.
Simon felt frustrated by his obligation to do whatever his boss said.
At the meeting, several residents stood up to object to the planning proposal.
The teenager was obstinate and refused to hand over the phone.
Okay, good. Obstinate. Okay, great. So we're going to look now at the definitions just to see how these words link into those sort of meanings of against, towards, or thoroughly. So I'll read number 1. So the police used their van to block the way against the criminals as they tried to escape. So obstruct is to block the way, against is that sense of being against. Okay, could you read number 2 for us?
The defenders tried to put up a barrier against the attacker's view of the goal.
Okay, again, it's that idea of against. Simon felt frustrated by his duty towards doing whatever his boss said. So that obligation is a duty towards somebody, being obliged to do something. Okay, could you read number 4?
At the meeting, several
Okay, so that video recording was from one of our English lead tutors who wasn't too sure about her delivery of a particular strategy that we use in the English tuition programme. And so what Donna did was submit that recording specifically to the English curriculum manager so that they could then get feedback on were they doing it as intended, was it going well, and what feedback. And that feedback conversation was really good because actually she was delivering that particular strategy really well. And actually our English curriculum manager got that footage and we now include that as part of our training so that our other tutors can see how that strategy is able to use. And so what was really good is that Donna felt lifted because she'd realised she had been doing it really well. She'd been doing a couple of parts of that strategy in a way that the English curriculum manager was able to go, right, that was really good. I'm going to talk to our new tutors about that so that they could see what that strategy looked like in place. So after the success of our pilot from our lead tutors last year, this year we have then now rolled that out to all of our tutors. And so what we did is over the summer, we worked with Iris Connect to build specific unique pathways for our feedback and reflection cycle. And so all the tutors follow that and it's a step-by-step process to support their ongoing development. So as part of that pathway, which is unique to our particular setting, because we know that being a tutor is different to your settings, but if you work with Iris Connect, you can have whatever pathway works for you. So the way it's to give you an example of what that pathway looks like, the first step is sharing a bit of information about what feedback and reflection looks like at Get Further. And as part of that, there's a recording of myself introducing the pathway and explaining what we do and how we do it at Get Further. The process then talks through how to do the recordings and there's some Iris guidance on there and it's linked from there so that the tutors know how to download the software. And then they have a bit of a practice doing a recording so that they don't have to worry about doing it for the very first time in a session. So they go away, do a bit of a practice recording. And then the pathway goes through the different steps of what it looks like. There are some questions for our tutors to answer on there. And as part of that, we can see their responses to it. Then they upload their video reflection. And then when they meet with their co-reviewer, they then input some additional reflections so that we can see that. And all of that is just done by a step-by-step process. So the tutor just logs on, goes through, and they know exactly what to do as part of our feedback and reflection cycle. And so every tutor in our organisation is matched to a Get Further colleague, and they work with them through that pathway for that time. They then can watch that recorded session together. There are some specific reflection questions which probe them to think about what's going well, what areas of development are required, and that's from both the perspective of the tutor sharing what they feel they need support with, and then that Get Further colleague as well, then offering their guidance for what they feel is going to have the biggest impact. Because remember, we're always focusing through that lens of quality and what we're trying to do to drive student outcomes up. And as a part of that, the pathway guides them to a specific step where they then have to write in what that feedback is, but also what that agreed action step is. And therefore they plan what their action step is, and then there is space for a follow-up recording. So our tutors then close that feedback loop by going away, doing whatever that action step is. And for sometimes it might be going away, doing some reading. It might be to watch another recording of a tutor. It could be to watch a particular podcast that we might support them with. And then they go away, do another recording, and they close that feedback loop by putting the recording in finally in the pathway. We can then share clips such as the one that you saw of our lead tutor Donna modelling that good teaching to support achievement. And then finally, we can then take those clips away and embed them into our training. So we have some of our clips from our lead tutors from last year, which are now in our training that we use at the start of a tutor's journey. But we're going to begin to collect lots more this year as we see different parts, so we can share that with the rest of our tutors. So having reflected on how we do it at Get Further, is there one takeaway that you have that you think you could go away and begin exploring so that you can then apply it to your own setting? So as before, if you go back to it again, if you just go back to the same page, it should open it up on Slido. But is there any part of observations, either from what we've talked about at Get Further or from what you've seen from the reflections from the other participants, is there anything that you would like to take away and begin to just explore or take back to your own setting? Brilliant. So I can see some of you have been prompted to sort of, think about videos, but more specifically, think about the pathways. And that's the difference for us this year. So last year, we didn't use the pathways, and it was just a case of our tutors went away, did videos whenever they wanted to, kind of whatever they wanted to. They guided that, and then they just submitted it whenever they felt like it. However, now we do have those specific pathways which take them through that journey so that they can then go through step by step, see the right guidance. We can link specific guidance within that, so they don't just have it in a conversation. It's all recorded so that they can come back to it. Bro, so thank you very much. That's everything from myself in terms of my session content. If you want to find out anything more about the work we're doing with Iris Connect, or if you want to explore anything that we're doing at Get Further, you can follow us on either Instagram, X, or Blue Sky, and it's all get_further for that. If you're just interested more about either our tuition programs or our CPD programs or curriculum or advocacy work, Adam Box is the best place to reach out. So I'll just leave that there for a moment. But if you want to hear more about how we're using feedback and reflection specifically at Get Further, do feel free to just reach out to me, and I'm happy to open that door to conversation. So I'll leave it on there for a moment while Vesna rounds off the session with some questions and answers. But yeah, do let us know if you want to follow up with anything.
Thank you very much, Tony. That was really inspiring to see and to hear all of the things that have actually inspired the creation of Iris Connect and why we are here. Is reflected in how you work, and the fact that you see that benefit of the video-based observations in practice is very encouraging, because there is a body of evidence that has demonstrated the benefits of it, but that kind of human element of that initial reluctance or feeling uncomfortable to engage with it is omnipresent. But as always, we see that once that first hurdle is overcome, it really opens the door for such much more effective and targeted professional learning. So I would just like to invite any questions or observations from anyone present. Feel free to either raise your hand if you wanted to speak, or use the chat. And while we're waiting for that, can I just ask, Tony, have you had a chance to explore the AI assistance that is available within the pathways and
No, not yet.
reviewing or
That's our job after Christmas. We wanted to use this first term to get all of our tutors on, because we've gone from having, I think we had 6 lead tutors last year, to now we've got over 80 of our tutors currently working on there, with more to be starting in January. So yeah, we're just finding our feet with managing 80 different tutors.
Well, you're obviously doing everything gradually, and that is really important, to do it at the appropriate time when you're ready for it, because there's so much to explore and to use. So a couple of questions regarding the material that was shared here in terms of the link to this session and the PowerPoint. So we will make that available to everyone, definitely. Just going to provide also email for our team if there are any particular questions regarding what we can help with. Then feel free to contact us there. If you think of any questions or anything else following the session, then feel free to get in touch both with Get Further and ourselves. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for such an engaging session. Thank you for the attendance of everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.